Happy Thursday, friends. Mortgage Mark. We have a ton of stuff to review today, but it's really good stuff. Not just data, but seriously, haha, funny stuff. I went rogue. Sorry, Riley. I know when you watch this, you're like, what'd you do to my presentation? I put some extra time into this one, guys, because it's just a lot to share. A lot of fun stuff, a lot of good stuff, some related to the market, some not. So here we go. Weekly rates. Freddie Mac shows 5.13 with 0.8 points. Okay, cool, fine. Here's what we got, guys. This is the mortgage-backed securities market. We show this all the time. But what I want to point out today is put more emphasis on like all these lines that show up, because you guys may see it like, who cares? Green is good. Green means lower rates for us. Like going up is good. That means up is lower, red is bad, red mean higher rates. So we've seen here since, what is this, June 13th, give or take, rates have been slowly improving. They've been leveling out this last week or two. Here's what I want to show you. I put these little red lines on here for you. So guys, with this little formation over on the right, this little triangle, they call it like a pennant, right? Like, you know, the Cubs win the pennant back in the day. Technically, it's the Giants, that old clip. The Giants win the pennant. So you look at this, and you can see how this upward trend is suddenly now met by this like downhill slide. And this is a big moment. If you can see how the last day or two we've kind of gone below that, you then can see these other like squiggly lines that go across. These are moving averages. And the longer a moving average, like a 200-day moving average, is going to hold more weight than that of like a short-term one, like a 25-day. So in other words, they said the last 25 days, here's the average of all those numbers. And that's where these little curvy lines come into play. So guys, the black one that is kind of sitting on right now, you see like a day or two ago, it hits this 50-day moving average. Right now, this is a floor of support. As long as we stay above it, it helps us. It's kind of there to say, hey, like, you know, here's some love, but look above us. Above us, you got that purple one. It's been sliding down. That's the 100-day moving average. You can see that that is above us. So that's a ceiling. Again, a 100-day moving average ceiling is harder to bust than a 50-day moving average. So that if things continue, you may see here in the next coming weeks that you may find that if we don't hold this now, we could drop, you know, I don't say precipitously or like be over dramatic, but obviously there's not a level of support until we get down to, in this chart on the right side, like 98. Like that's just a long way to drop. And I'm not saying we're going there. I'm just saying it looks like there's more risk than there is reward right now. And so we're highly recommending people lock. I've been saying, I've been predicting, I don't think rates will peak until probably October, November of this year. I don't think inflation's done. Despite last month's, you know, the last reading we just had, I think inflation keeps going up. And the bottom part, guys, down here, this black and red, like check it out on June 13th. You can see when on June 13th, the little squiggly lines down the bottom, when the black is below the red and it keeps going down and down, once it gets below that horizontal red line, you're in an oversold market, meaning like we expect to rebound. And when you see that black line go above the red, that's typically a really good sign. And you can see how the market improves. And then conversely, let's go to basically the end of July, 1st of August, you guys can see we get in the overbought stage where the black line starts going all of a sudden again below the red. And then you break that and then you'll see that kind of trend down. And I'm surprised the rates have held as well as they have, because typically as we head down here, I suspect we're going to go higher. So I'm going to also translate that to the stock market. So here's the S&P index, guys. And this is just my personal stuff. I took a screenshot from my personal account that I use to track this stuff. First of all, you can see here that basically at the start, you know, welcome to 2022. At the very start of 2022 is when the market starts dropping. We've had about a 24-25% drop in the S&P index. But check it out, what's happened here just in the last few weeks. It's had a really good run. These arrows make me look smart. You know, I basically started getting back in the market. I got out in November of last year, you know, at least all the stuff I didn't want. And then I'm starting to buy back in, and I'm going to buy once a month, and I'm going to start layering back into the market. And in doing so, guys, what I want to show you is stocks have had a good run too. You can look from mid-June that stocks have gone up, like they've been running. And why did I buy in June? One is just some of the economic data, you know, where I think things are going for 2023 and beyond. But then look down at that, what we just saw, these little blue and red squiggly roller coaster looking things at the bottom. We were just so oversold in such a pronounced way in June that I thought, what the heck, let's go for it. And again, I thought most of the damage was done. Now, check where we are now. Go to the far right. this is that black line, the long squiggly black line, that's the 200-day moving average. We are now pressed up against that. We are overbought. Look at the roller coaster lines down below. So I'm going to still continue to buy, but I'm going to wait and see what happens in these next coming weeks. The Fed's anticipated to still raise rates. And guys, I think they still need to, despite inflation, 1 month showing it's come down. I think it's still going to be around where they need to. Here's one other thing. I didn't know this. If you know me well enough, you know that I like the stock market. I did not know this rule of 20. If you add up inflation as measured by the CPI, that's one measure of inflation. And then you take the S&P's what's called price to earnings number. When that's under the number 20, that's when they say the markets will typically bottom. Right now, we're at 28.5. So here's what all that says in a chart. So the thick blue line that's just bouncing up and down, this is that number of the rule of 20. Right now it's 28.5. You can see on the chart on the far right. Well, look at the solid 20 that's going across. Just if you'll notice in the orange lines, it's when the market has bottomed. That's when the S&P in all these years, whenever they've been measuring since 1935, when you go back and look, every time the market has bottomed, that number has been under 20%. There's now look 1970, I don't know, 1970-ish. It came close to where the market bottomed when the number was above it, but it was still below it. It's literally 2003. There's another example where market technically bottomed when the number was right around that 20. But holy smokes, I'm not saying we can't, I'm not saying we won't, but it's just, I thought this was really interesting. So if you're bored and you've tuned out by now, sorry about that. You're gone, doesn't matter. But if you're still here, I find this fascinating. So on to actual relevant stuff. The news, at least regarding real estate. I think there's a big point to make, and I saw this and I love this. There's a difference between the housing activity and housing prices. Yes, we are having an activity recession. There's no doubt. A lot more folks, I should say a lot less folks are now calling in saying, hey, we need a mortgage and want to do something. But that is the activity versus the prices. Guys, you can see this is the same chart. This is Redfin. These are stats that I was like, wow, it doesn't feel that way. Right now, guys, 44% of homes have multiple offers on them. I'm going to say that again. 44% of homes being sold right now have multiple offers still. So people are like, oh, we're in for a crash. Look, I don't think we're in for a crash. I think there's a difference between, I don't know what your definition of crash is. I don't know that I have a technical one. I don't think we're in for a crash. So yes, in January, are we cooling down? Yeah, in January, 70%, 69.8. 70% of homes had multiple offers, now 44%. Guys, pre-COVID, if you just had 2 offers, that was awesome. If your home sold in less than 6 months, because that's a balanced market, it was great. So yes, are things slowing down a touch in terms of activity? Yes. Our price is going down. Guys, check this out. Here's the inventory. People are like, oh, there's going to be a glut of houses and all this stuff. Okay, let's check this out. This is from 2012 is when it goes back, somewhere in that line. This is the existing inventory on the market. If you'll notice, really similar bubbles. And you'll notice that the peak of the bubbles each year is around the August time period. Why is that? Typically at that point, houses come on the market, as you guys know, a lot of times around like the April, May time period. And then people try to close and be in the home by the end of August, September, so they can be ready and get the kiddos back in school. So here we are, and you can kind of see, time will tell, it looks like we may be peaking, but look at the amount of inventory we have today compared to years past. It is still stinking low, right? So the amount of inventory on these things is crazy. Some other stats up here on the left, first-time home buyers, okay, they're 29% instead of 30%. To me, that's the same number. Cash, 24% versus 29%. Probably about the same number. Investors, 14% versus 16%. Yes, is the market, quote, slowing down? Yes. Are prices going down? Maybe they're just getting to where people aren't going obnoxious. But I got to tell you, when I was doing loans 6 months ago, people knew they were overpaying. They didn't think that's what the house was worth. Like, oh man, I got to overpay 50 grand to get it. That's not, I didn't hear somebody say, man, that's the value. That's what the home's worth. I never heard somebody say that's the home's worth. They didn't say that was the value. That's what they had to pay to get it, and they did it. So my point is, if you see prices coming off, my opinion is that we're just getting back to where the actual values are. Here's some other stats. And I know I'm beating the crap out of you guys with stats today, but I think it's worth it. So the median home price is still up year over year by 10%. So people are like, is this a good time to buy? Look, rates may go up, they may go down. If rates never come back down, this is the lowest you're going to see people need to buy. But if people buy today, I think rates can and will be going down next year, and you can refinance. Your rate's not forever. But the prices of these homes, if they keep going up, you need to buy today, right? So I'm not saying I'm trying to force somebody into it. I'm just saying if there's a need and they want to buy a home, they should do it if they find the right home. So the rest of this I'm going to skip. You guys can read, push pause if you want to. But the other part down at the bottom on the inventory, if you actually figure this 1.3 million of inventory, right now, guys, 43% of those are actually under contract. So technically, they're not even available for sale because they've already got somebody committed to them, right? So that means there's only almost half that number, 747, is active listings that are there. That's crazy to me. And by the way, the normal is only have 25% of the market under contract. So it is still a really good housing market. That's what's blowing my mind here. Yes, there's just not as many people out there trying to buy them. Maybe that gets corrected. We shall see in the months coming to play. But right now, again, yes, it's quiet, but I don't see the pricing piece changing that much. And then lastly, Mark, it's still 14 days on the market. People are like, oh God, homes aren't selling as fast. 14 days. Again, guys, like a balanced market, you're talking months. So 14 days. Last thing. All right. I don't mean to, believe me, I don't need this guy on my case. However, I did see this and I had to point this out. So Grant Cardone, big influencer, way more followers, all 7 of you watching this versus his 7 million or whatever he's got. And he's got way more money than me. There's no doubt. But I got a problem with him saying you don't need to buy a home because it's wasting money. So here's his numbers he gave. And this was on CNBC. Saw it the other day. I'm just like, are you serious? He says it's stupid. So here's his unrealistic example, in my opinion, unrealistic example. If you bought a home 10 years ago for 100 grand, you put 5 grand down. 10 years later, the home sells for 200 grand. I didn't go back and fact check that. I think, let's just assume it doubled in that time period, right? So he's like, oh, it seems like a big profit. You turn your 5 grand down payment into 100 grand. He's like, but you got to consider the cost. 10 years of interest, 60 grand, 10 years of property taxes, real estate fees, the total, cost before maintenance, 86,000. When I was doing the math, I came up with like 90 if you're renting. Right? Here's the part. You're not living in a basement at your mom's. You got to pay rent. So he's like, all this money goes out of pocket. Yeah. Do you know what the interest rate is on rent? Take a guess. The interest rate on rent is 100%. Here you get tax deductions. You get property tax deductions, the interest paid deductions. You actually get tax deductions. Forget the fact that you're paying down a balance and your home's worth even more. This 14 grand is garbage. This is not a real number. So it's like, good grief, man. Like read the article and you're like, what the hell are you thinking? So here's a stat just in, let's not even do 10 years from 2019 to 2022, you're up 48% if you bought a home. That's a 480% return. That's 192 grand. Somebody buys a $400,000 home here in the Metroplex. Back in 2019, it's now worth 592. I'm sorry, Grant, homeownership is a way to build wealth. Again, renting's 100% interest. It's crazy. So here's the fun stuff, guys. These were headlines I saw. The black ones are the better ones. First of all, I'm glad I'm not over in Europe. You guys have probably seen some of the mess, and even in the UK, like one with energy crisis and all this stuff, but UK's over 10% in inflation, so that's not great. Retail spending here held steady. So while we're quote unquote, recession-esque or in a recession, people are still spending money, guys. And this one blew my mind. In Irving, 75060 is literally in the top 50 hottest zip codes in America. The only other Texas town or Texas zip code was El Paso. I was like, are you kidding me? That's crazy. I think it was like top 10 even. It's nuts. So congratulations, Irving. Way to go. Here's something. I was having conversations about, do you work from home? And I know this video is long. We're about done. But people are trying to get people back in the office. Apparently companies are now having like catered food to get their people back in the office, and they're actually coming in. So I thought that was kind of funny. And lastly, guys, in the cannabis news, this was on Market Watch, I think, it was where I saw it. Mike Tyson's cannabis, he's making Evander Holyfield shaped ears. So if you want a gummy, to do some type of cannabis. Mike Tyson, I didn't even know he had a cannabis company, but he's making ear-shaped ones so you can take a bite out of that ear like he did. And then also he's making a strain that's inspired by toad licking. So go Tyson, go. And if you guys want, scan this little QR code. We'll put a link, I'm sure, somewhere too. These videos, they just amaze me. It's just, if you got 3 minutes to kill, this will just absolutely impress you. So guys, I know it's a really long video. I think it was worth it. I hope you did too. If you do, share, subscribe, like, all that fun stuff. If you don't like it, feel free to just email me and say, bro, you're not that interesting. And I'm like, okay, cool, but this isn't me. This is cool stuff. So I hope you guys have a great day, great week. We'll be working this weekend as always. So if you guys need help with quick prequels or anything like that, please reach out to us. And as always, guys, when you think mortgage, think Mark.